What's going on, everybody? This is Patman Trucking here to make another video. Today we're going to talk about orientation and what to expect when you go through orientation. Everybody's orientation is going to be different based on different circumstances. I can only speak about going through orientation for people who's got their CDLs and is coming to rail with a CDL. I don't know how to get your CDL program works with orientation. I'd assume it's probably the same. Plus, after orientation, then you go your classes. I would assume. So, orientation. First, you got to start out by getting in touch with a recruiter. They'll set up everything. They'll either get you a flight, a bus, or a rental car from your house to, either Conley, Gary, or the Marshfield, terminals. I think them are the only three that do orientation. I think El Paso, or not El Paso, Grand Prairie, Texas has orientation too if you live in Texas. Other than that, I think them are the only terminals that do orientation. To get your CDL program, I know Conley does that, and Gary does it. I think Marshfield does it too. But orientation will usually work after you get, your bus, airplane, or rental car. You'll go to the hotel. With COVID-19, we only had single occupancy suites. I think before COVID they had double occupancy suites, but it just depends on the circumstances on when you come into rail. During orientation was a week long for us. So, the first day you come in, they'll talk a little bit. You have to take a physical fitness test. It ain't much. There's a machine, They test your arm strength, your back strength, your leg strength. It's not hard, They just want to know that you can do the job without having any problems, like climbing up in the trailer, putting your duffel bags in the trailer, flatbeds, they got to lift tarps. The tarps, I think they said, were like 100 pounds. They just want to make sure you can actually do the job before they give you the job, kind of deal. So expect that when you come to orientation, They also take you out for a driving test during orientation, to see that you have the abilities to drive one of their trucks, because, no company wants to turn you loose in a $100,000 vehicle if you can't drive it, kind of deal. They're just looking out for themselves, you, and the safety of others. Rail's a really safety-oriented company for the most part. They teach you about their core values, their cornerstone values. They tell you about that in orientation. It's drive safe. Safety is the cornerstone value. They preach to you about the Safe 7. You'll learn about that during orientation. Or you can look it up. We might have a video on that one day about the Safe 7. After that, you get the orientation. My orientation was a little bit different because I didn't have no trucking experience before I come to rail, but I had my CDLs. So, I did some simulations on, they have a simulator too. I went out and done the driving stuff. They have a simulator also. And they put you through different conditions, construction zones, bad weather, stuff like that to simulate, what you'll see out on the road, because if you ain't never drove in it, you don't know what to expect when it happens. So, if you're coming in to rail, with no driving experience, but you have your CDLs, you can look forward to that. That was kind of fun, the simulator. They take you around, and show you the different types of trailers they have. I'm currently in the van fleet, the dry van, so I don't really know much about the reefer side. I mean, it's not much different, it's just a reefer, so you'll learn how to operate the reefer unit if you've never done it. So, yeah, in my fleet we have like 3 different types of trailers. The newer ones don't have them big wings you see on the back of trailers. Some things are trash, half the trailers they got, the wings are broke, somebody's broke them or something like that. They teach you about the rail app. You come to rail, you'll learn about the MyRail app. can get all your work information off of that. Send in your invoices, stuff like that. They teach you about detention pay. How to put in for detention pay. If you're setting at a shipper or a consignee longer than or 2 hours after your appointed time, you'll get detention pay. As long as you're on time for your appointment. Let's see, what else did we learn in orientation? We also went over all the benefits in orientation. Also in orientation, they pay for your food. You get breakfast at the hotel, which our breakfast was wasn't much because of COVID. They didn't want to open up the bars and stuff like that. So like we had apples, cinnamon buns, and a drink. Wasn't much, but you gotta do what you gotta do if you really want to work. Also, we had at lunchtime they provided you with a sandwich, chips, some kind of fruit, a drink. Then they give you a meal voucher for dinner. And when you go back to the hotel, there's a restaurant across the street you can go to. They give you a meal voucher. If I was y'all, I would advise to have a little money saved up because, eating sandwiches every day for lunch is not the ideal. Usually, like, with me, I come in, I didn't have no trucking experience, so after my orientation, I went out with a trainer for, roughly a month. So, if you're coming in with no experience, you're going to look forward to going out with a trainer. That's going to happen. If you come in with trucking experience, you make it through orientation, get all that done. Usually they assign you to a truck right there, if they have it on site. Sometimes they'll send you to get a truck, which what I've heard is if they do that, they'll get you a rental car and they'll pay for your miles from your drive. Just like you're driving a truck, they'll pay for your miles to go pick up the vehicle. So like they're pretty good. They've done me right so far. Like after I was done with orientation, I had to wait. I think it was roughly a week for a trainer. So they got me a rental car home. To go home for the week. I went home. Then I got my trainer. I had to come back to Conley. That's when my trainer was going to pick me up. So they got me a rental car from my house in North Carolina back to Conley. So after that was all said and done, I went out with my trainer for the month. He lived in Florida, so when he went home, he tried to stay out with me for the whole month. He had some stuff he had to take care of, so he went home for his home time for a week. So I had the option I can go home, but it wasn't really worth it because I'd only get like a day home out of the whole week, because I have to drive and stuff like that. So it wasn't really worth it to go home. So I just come down here. They come down here. They got me a hotel. It was right across from Disney World, but Disney World shut down because of COVID. So they'll do you right for the most part. So you can look forward to that if you're coming in with no experience. Like I said, I can't really speak for everybody's situation because everybody comes in different situations, So that's the way orientation usually plays out. I think they pay you $100 a day for orientation. And then if you go out with a trainer, because you have no experience, they'll pay you, I think it is, if you drive over a certain amount of miles for that day, they'll pay you $90 a day. And then if you drive under a certain amount, they'll pay you I'm not really sure about that. I think it's like 50 miles a day, And you'll get, during orientation, they'll also issue your fleet managers. So with me, I got my training fleet manager. For the people who are coming in that's got experience, they'll get their permanent fleet manager right away. So, different circumstances. If you're an owner-operator coming into rail, they'll give you, it's like a fleet manager, but it's not. It's an advisor or something like that. I'm not quite sure. So I don't really know how it works on the other side. I know I went through 3 sets of fleet managers. I got my training fleet manager, then I got my probationary training fleet manager, and then I got my permanent fleet manager. And usually when you get your permanent fleet manager, you're been out, roughly about 2 months with rail. You'll do a week with your trainer, and then, or not a week, a month with your trainer. Then you'll come back. They'll issue you your truck, which in my case it took about a week to get my truck, and they only had 10 speeds. So they told me I could wait for a manual, but I went ahead and opted for a 10 speed because I don't have the restrictions on my license. So different circumstances. If you know how to drive a 10 speed, they're there if you want them. I would advise not to get them if you don't have to, because they're so hard to get your MPG. And you want to get a good MPG because you'll get MPG bonuses. So that's something to think about when you opt in. And I know some people can't wait to get a truck because they got a family to feed, so they can't go home and wait a week or 2 weeks without working because they got bills. So that was my reason to go ahead and opt in to getting a manual. But they gave me a manual that was really high in miles. It was really old, so I got a new truck. I've had this truck. It's a 2021 Freightliner. I picked it up roughly about 4 weeks ago. So I can't complain with that. So they'll give you all the details about that during orientation. So that's all about orientation I got to say for this video. If you do see this, subscribe, leave a comment, a like. Any questions you got about rail that I can answer so far, I will answer. Just leave a comment, and I will get back to you or make a video about it if I get enough comments about that particular situation. So stay tuned. I'll probably make another video in a couple days. We'll do like a weekly check-in. I'll let you know what's going on with rail and my situation. So please subscribe and like, and that's it for this time.